Hey, you guys out there. Um, I just want to say thank you and say hello to my subscribers: Virginia Whitlow, Craig Walker, Shioni Campbell, Rhodia Romwell, and Cassie. And I apologize if I said your name wrong. I'm really sorry about that. But what I kind of want to talk about today, in a scatterbrained but interesting way that I pray God is leading me with this, is my purpose and my dream, and the things that have changed in my life that God has caused to happen, and little things that's helping prepare me for the dream. And some of this was going on while I was making my To Cassie video. And I know I haven't made one in a while, I just haven't really been sure on what to make it on. But some interesting things have been happening to me. This past December, my back muscle just got pulled really bad at work, where I was working at for almost a year and a half. It didn't go well, and they didn't hit. I'm not going to talk about where I worked, but the place that I worked at, it just felt like somebody hit me in the back with a table, even though it didn't really happen. And it really hurt me. And I went to the hospital and I followed compensation rules and everything on what they told me to do. And then an injustice happened on the way that they handled the situation. And I'm not going to go into what it has been, because God is taking care of that. And I had to pray to God on what was the right thing to do. Should I sue the place, or should I just walk away peacefully, or should I just keep working there? And God spoke to me and told me just to leave the place peacefully and gracefully like you came. And at the time, I didn't understand why it was going on. I didn't understand, of all times, why was it happening now? Because I basically loved my job. I had gotten back to the shift that I missed. That way I could go to church more. And I thought things were going great. I thought things were going decent between me and my boyfriend at the time. And, when everything seems to like it's falling apart, I find that God is up to something. And I'm just going to lay a little bit of groundwork about what's been going on with me and the things I've been dealing with, and how it's really been building on my purpose and what God has called me to be and what I want to be. Okay. When I walked away from that job, it really just was a major change in my life. And while that was going on, some other things are going on too. And at that time, since I didn't have anything else to focus on, since I didn't have my job, all I had to focus on was my family, church, and my boyfriend that I had. Noticed had. Well, I thought that I was going to marry the guy because of this big prophecy that was over us. And that was something I struggled with, because I'd have times of doubt and times of surety because of it, because of the prophecy that was on our lives. And it brought me to a point to where I realized this guy wasn't healthy for me. He was no longer healthy for me, and I'm not going to talk about it in all the ways that he wasn't, because I don't like to run people's names through the mud too bad. Actually, not at all. But I do like to fill people with the truth when I find it necessary. When we first met and things were going through, and he helped me through a big change in my life and helped get me back on the Christian road, I can understand why God put him in my life. But there were times also during that God kept telling me to let him go. Let him go. I needed to let him go. And I would for a little while, and then he would find some way to get back with me or lure me back in, or sometimes it would be my flesh and my heart, and I'd take him back. We did this like 6 times. And it was through that course that I found out that I was bipolar. So that I am thankful about that, and I am thankful that God, through him, saved me from the life and the road that I was on. But we reached a point to where he started messing in sin too much, to where he wasn't healthy for me anymore. And that prophecy that was true became invalid because of the way that he had become and led me to. And when I left my job, God let me see how he wasn't healthy for me. And I just reached my breaking point where I couldn't take anymore. I couldn't take any more of him being like that. And God just ripped the veil off of my eyes. And I was going to a different church that was healthy for me at the time. And I know people are like, well, how can a church be only healthy for you at a time? Don't mind my dog snoring. That's just him sleeping. I promise he's okay. He's my little bed buddy. But, anyhow, at the time, I had changed churches, and I know that seems to be a common occurrence with me, because the church I was at, I had reached my spiritual growth point as far as I could grow there. And then I moved to the church, well, we moved to that church. And when I broke up with them, we got into a fight over that church. As in, he wasn't going to go there anymore, and it was just going to be me, because he had tons of churches he could go to. Where he had friends in a lot of churches, and I didn't have a lot of friends in different churches. And so, over brutal, mean, vicious arguments, I'll be honest, he gave in and let me have it, or else I threatened a restraining order, I'll be honest. I mean, I was tired of letting him push me around and manipulate me. Yes, he was a manipulator. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. And all these changes just started happening around me. At that church, it started out great. I mean, they showed me love and care and affection. And at first they were really caring about me growing. And they knew what was wrapped up around me and things that was going on. And they wanted to help me get out of it. And they did. You know, they helped me at that point. But things started getting weird. From December to March, it had been a good church for me. But in those times, other things started changing too. My brother's marriage, I only have one brother, had split. The woman had just started not wanting to show my brother affection, and that started causing problems to where they were going through a separation and a divorce. And of course, when his son goes through a divorce, he goes back to Mama's house, and Mama's house is with me because I still live with my parents. Don't judge me. And so here he comes. Everything's okay. I mean, we're getting along okay. We're not the best getting along, but you know, that's what's to be expected whenever a brother turns into adult and younger sister turns into adult also. And then something else changes. My nephew, who my brother has had joint custody with his first wife, bucks up and has this breakdown and decides that he wants to come and live with his daddy. Well, Daddy was living with us, with my parents and I. And so that's another change. And me being bipolar, and I'm not owning up to it or just accepting it, it's just the way I've always been, and it helps explain a lot of things. Whenever a lot of changes go around a person who has bipolar disorder, it can either send them into a tailspin and they have a hard time dealing with change, especially when it's change that they didn't decide. And at first, I struggled with the change because my mom was treating them a little bit special, and I was used to getting that special attention. And because I've always been used to being the baby, say what you will. And I had to deal with my jealousy towards my nephew. Because I felt like my mom treated the grandkids better than she treated us. Don't get me wrong, she treated us good too, but I've always had jealousy problems. I'm not going to act like I don't, because I always have. I mean, they've gotten better through time. Okay, I don't want to get off my point here. And so that was a change that happened. And he started going to school here. He wasn't doing very good in school, because he was coming from a school in West Virginia, as opposed to where I live, which I'm not going to give away where I live. And that's a big change for a kid, considering it's like the school that he was in, the teachers didn't care whether the students knew their material or not. They just wanted to pass them on and get their dollar. And that really burned me up. And I knew he was going to have a really hard time coming here and changing schools, but I didn't say anything like that, because I didn't want to discourage him, because I know he's smart. God, please let this be of me. Okay, I'm having to lay this groundwork to really explain what I mean about staying focused on your dream, about your dream. And so he starts going to school here. Kevin starts living here. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, I was going to have to change rooms. Changing rooms was like changing houses to me. I had the big room whenever my brother moved out. And so he had to live in the smaller room with my nephew and him. And I didn't want to give it up, because everything in my life going on was changing. I'd broke up with my boyfriend, and I had to walk away from my job. Things were just going weird there, and just another change. And I didn't think I could handle it. I thought I was going to break down. And I didn't understand, why now? Why is everything breaking loose now? And so my church, gives me comfort. And when my brother and my nephew moved in, it put a lot of strain on me. Because we live in a trailer, not a huge house that's like out in Hollywood, but a trailer. Enough room, but not a whole lot of room. And my brother and I didn't always get along, because I'm trying to live the Christian life while he's handling his heartbreaks in other ways that are very worldly. That's all I'm going to say, because I don't want to talk about anybody, especially if he watches this video. So we would get into arguments, fights, and that made it really hard. It did. Especially whenever he wanted to get all up in my business and ask me why didn't my boyfriend have a job, and him being 24, and it was something really personal to me. And that happened on Thanksgiving. I keep telling him, please, don't go there. Please, leave it alone. Don't ask. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until my mom finally had to tell him the truth later. And it's like we just kept butting heads like crazy. I didn't even understand why all this was going on. And I love my brother, but it's like I just wanted to say this house isn't big enough for the both of us. I can't take this anymore. And I'm going to end my video, this first video right there, because I don't want it to run over time, but I'll finish. This is going to have to be a two-parter. Sorry, y'all.